So I'm back at the Lofgren headstone here. Hans is fishing in Flin Flon, so I'm going to do a little surprise for him here and give this his great-grandfather's headstone a little bit of a cleaning. And we're going to use some D2 biological solution on this and clean the headstone and clean the foundation. First thing I'm going to do is give it a bit of a rinse. By rinsing it, you get loosen up all the any dirt or grime that's on there, and gives it a base for the D2. I'm gonna clean it on all sides. I can see that there's some lichen already formed. I cleaned this headstone about 5 years ago, but it's can use a second treatment now. So after I'm done with the rinse, I'm going to give it a bit of a scrubbing, and then I'm going to give it a D2 cleaning. So it's a bit of a windy day here right now, so this water is drying really quickly. So I might actually be scrubbing here and rinsing at the same time just to keep it wet. So all I have is a series of different brushes that I use. And this big one's big for big, large cleaning. And you can see there's some biological growth right there because it's already coming out filthy. That's what I'm getting off the cement here. Where it's really dirty is up top, where the moss and lichen will go. Sides are just as dirty. If you're hearing motor noises in the background, it's because the cemetery is right next to the highway here, and there's traffic coming through. So I'm going to switch over to a different brush. I like these smaller brushes here because they're really good. This one here, it's just actually a toilet brush, but if you can see here, it's got these little grooves. They're good for getting in between here and then the lettering as well. So while I'm scrubbing, I'm rinsing at the same time again. And you really don't need too much in the way of product. I do professional restorations here for headstones, but if you wanted to clean a headstone yourself, you really don't need much more than a scrub brush and water. But the product we use in the cemetery room for cleaning this is D2 biological solution, and it's expensive, but it works really well, and that's what we all like using, because you can spray it and basically walk away. And I can see them rinsing off quite a bit of organic growth that's developed on the headstone in the last 5 years. But it's already looking a lot nicer. And Hans is the great grandson of Henrick LOFGREN, and we'll get into his history right away. Now, I've already got a pre-made container of D2 here. I split it 50-50. 50% D2, 50% water. I find that's an effective use for me. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the headstone now, and it'll eat away at any of that organic growth that was here. And then we're going to give it another scrubbing. And scrub down the, or give the foundation treatment. Now normally I charge for this because it's my time, my product. The product can be rather expensive, but since Veterans Affairs paid for this 5 years ago, and Hans came all the way from Sweden to the Paw, Manitoba, I figure, you know, we'll give a freebie away here. So it's been a few minutes, and because of the wind it's actually already drying out. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to start scrubbing off the D2. But a little bit of history here on Private Henrick LOFGREN, born in Sweden, and he born in Sweden in 1875. And he joined up with the Canadian Expeditionary Force in World War I with the 197th Battalion. That's the Vikings of Canada. I think on an early part of the video it actually I said it was the Scandinavians, but it's actually the Vikings of Canada. He didn't make it overseas, but he was transferred from the 197th when it sailed overseas to the Canadian Special Service Company, and he did the remainder of his service in Canada with the Canadian Special Service Company. And during that time he actually was a cook for the casualty company. So as the soldiers were coming back from overseas, it still required medical services from the doctors in the medical field back here in Canada. He was acting as a cook for the company. So didn't make it overseas, but you know, every veteran served in their own way. And Hans has obviously more information on his great-grandfather. From what I understand, he ended up making it to Flin Flon and living and working there for quite some time. But he ended up dying in a car accident in 1954. And with no other family, he was buried in the veterans plot here. Now Flin Flon was a thriving community at that time, but I guess for whatever reason they chose to bury him here. It's possible he came here for the autopsy, and having no other family around or nobody else that claimed him, they buried him in this plot. So there's a couple different veterans plots here, but this is like the main area. And he had a brother who was living down, I think it was in Washington State, that he gave his next of kin as. I think his name was John Lofgren. And so when he signed up in the First World War, that's who he gave as his next of kin. And I'll put a link to his service file in the video if anybody's interested. But he's buried here in the Lakeside Cemetery in the Veterans Plot. And see how the D2 is still working its magic with all that extra organic growth still keep coming out. So he was buried here, and this would have either been a Veterans Affairs or a Last Post Fund headstone that Canada supplies. And Last Post Fund is still very active today. And if you know of any unmarked graves of veterans, Last Post Fund will put up a headstone, a standard veterans headstone, for anybody that has an unmarked grave. So all I'm doing here is I'm just taking toothpicks, get these at the dollar store in these big packs, and I'm cleaning out the lettering. And there's some pine needles and whatnot here that I can see in some of this, so that's all I'm doing is just getting all the pine needles out. And I just want to make it a little more respectable and well taken care of for Hans, since he came all the way from Sweden. And you know, it's an hour out of my day to come and do this, and I love doing it. And like I said, I normally charge, but since Veterans Affairs paid for this cleaning 5 years ago, and Hans came in from Sweden all these thousands of kilometers away, I figured I'd be a good guy and clean this one for free for him. So I'm going to, that's the history on Private Henrick LOFGREN. Never made it overseas, but served with the 197th Battalion, later Canadian Special Service Company. He was discharged after 2 years of service. And I think the reason why he didn't go overseas was he actually had a blurred left eye, if I remember correctly, seeing through his service file. And but veteran nonetheless, served his adoptive country of Canada, and served it honorably, and he's not forgotten now in the Lakeside Cemetery. And I'm so happy that Hans was able to come and visit his great-grandfather's grave, because prior to this, I think I was probably the last person to care enough about Henrick here to maintain his headstone. And so yeah, Veterans Affairs in Canada actually has a program where we go and do cemetery maintenance. So if you actually have cemetery maintenance that needs done in your veterans plot in your community, and you're not sure how to go, just send me a message or an email and I can help line that up for you. Last Post Fund is lastpostfund.ca, and you can, if you're a cemetery enthusiast and you want to get some Last Post Fund markers, you can go through them. It's free. You just got to do the paperwork. It takes me 5 minutes. Might take you hours or weeks, but again, send me a message and let me know, and we can help you out with that. And we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back to it. So the headstone's dry now. A little bit of staining right there, but the D2 will act on that. But it was cleaned 5 years ago, and it looks almost showroom special again. So we're gonna send this here to Hans, or have him come back out here, and I'm gonna replace the flowers and the rock that he have here. And this is Private Henrick LOFGREN of the 197th Battalion.